Bread on base is tanking right now. What we have to figure out is actually, is it going to zero? What's going to actually happen to bread on base? And what we see on the market currently, grown-ass men actually fighting each other over meme coins. You might think it's not so serious, but actually the fight is going on for the ability to dump tens of millions of dollars on the heads of retail once they would essentially be coming in. I will also show you a case study of how fucking stupid the market is and how smart certain people are who are actually making money in the market. Since yesterday, bread actually dumped around 72%, right? And I would say, like, for a meme coin, that's not a huge dump at this stage. And in general, if you're following my Satoshi VM FAT and all the videos about Satoshi VM, I think it dumped from like $12 to $2, which probably was a bit worse than the current situation. But I see the main issue point for bread, the main weakness point for bread, is the fact that exchanges might actually delist it. Because if exchanges will actually be delisting bread, then most likely long-term it actually won't be doing well. And our goal in this video is actually going to figure out if this is something that's worth buying the FAT, because you're not often making money in the market if you're FATing something. Although we definitely had shorts option opened for bread on the market. So maybe the whole thing that's happening, the whole attacks from other communities, they just opened a bunch of shorts of on bread and they're just making a bunch of money. And this may be the reason why exchanges are also actually closing the options to trade bread and want to delist bread, because people are making too much money, the one who were actually shorting it. And liquidity providers definitely did not like it. And to be honest with you, exchanges often do not send their orders to liquidity providers. They just take them for themselves. And none of them would ever actually tell you about it. So we're definitely seeing quite an interesting situation. And our goal is to figure out, is this actually a buying point for bread, or if it's actually going to zero. We have a new post from Narrative Hunter. Now that the base bread whitelist has been exposed, let me demonstrate that Crash was also included. For weeks and months, Crash has consistently shoved into the timeline that the cold bread that he was right, a genius and amazing hunter, he also was an insider. To be honest, as mentioned in the previous video, I quite like Crash. I do think he is a very, very talented trader. I do think that other things that he was calling, and Boba and Rido and some others, they have nothing specifically to do with things that are actually happening on this project, because they were in the bear market for so much time for anyone with an ability to buy. I actually quite like Crash. I saw him first in the last cycle, and I do think that he's doing very, very interesting things. That's why this story with bread is so interesting as well. But before showing you concrete evidence of these wallets being directly linked to him, let's quickly introduce Crash public claims about bread. The bread prediction. On February 28th, Crash posted a video where he predicts that bread will do a 500x. The market cap was at 1.6 million, and our godlike investor Crash was full of conviction with bulletproof arguments in favor of bread. Bread, friends with Pepe, Coinbase airdrop incoming, a lot of inflow pending, front run the narrative to make money. Clip 1 he only bought on that same day of posting the video. Clip 2 he only knew about the launch the day before making this video, which was still one day before the launch. Only issue is these two statements are a lie. We'll prove later on. Let's continue with this video. So basically he's sharing the fact that Crash was buying live on the video. Crash then claims repeatedly that he's not an insider, not on the team, just a base chain hunter that keeps on hitting the big narratives. Man, is he good. So we do definitely see a bit of sarcasm here. And yeah, it definitely was happening. So Crash definitely was saying that this is something he just saw from the market. And it seems currently, following all of the evidences, that he unfortunately was an insider, which was this point that I kind of started to realize several days ago, and which was not lying in my head well. The I told you so phase. Fast forward to a few weeks later, bread keeps surging in price and crashes up millions of dollars, and he had to let us peasants know about it. Only there is one problem, Crash. You are a huge liar and you were whitelisted. You knew about it day one. So an aggressive marketing that actually was used by Crash in bread case definitely was very, very interesting. Like execution on this thing, you can't ever say anything bad about it because it was executed very, very well. The core thing is whether or not would it actually survive, because if you would think so, 80% corrections for meme coins, it's not even the FAT. FAT would actually be if this thing would be going to zero, because even currently 73%, it's like a typical correction for a meme coin, because my situation with Satoshi VM, I think it corrected more than 80%, but it's like a utility project, right? So it's not a meme coin in the first place. And seeing the situation like this for a meme, if you are in the meme coins, it's actually quite straightforward. That's why the main goal of this video is to figure out if this is an opportunity or actually not. And I see main risks currently exchanges delisting bread, as I think if they would be delisting bread, there would probably not be a lot of options to actually get back on listing bread on the exchanges, and probably it's not going to appear on larger exchanges as well. And it's actually might be the case that I just realized it in this video, because it actually might be the case. The reason they're delisting it is not because of the FAT, it's because guys that decided to FAT bread, they actually opened shorts on exchanges. And I do believe that some of like tier 3 exchanges, they essentially listed bread as well, and they're definitely not sending all of the orders to liquidity providers. They are definitely making money on people getting liquidated. Therefore, they are losing a bunch of money currently. And this might be the reason of why they actually want to delist bread. Not the reason of because like there is some type of FUD and things like that. But you can also say a lot about certain exchanges that listed these tokens and some others. Knowing that this is an inside job, you can always think about the due diligence process that they essentially undertaken from their end, and realize once again that no one cares about you in the industry, even exchanges. Everyone just looks to take your money. Proof of crashes whitelists. There are 2 wallets that we will focus on that are linked to Crash. You can go to the contract below and see in the whitelist. Crash was actually smart about hiding it. After checking through his social media posts, no links were found between his public wallets and his bread whitelisted wallets. But he forgot a tiny detail that proves without the shadow of a doubt that it's him. Meet Dinosaur959 mentioned both of these wallets on his X account for giveaways airdrops. But why should you care about this random account? Well, simply because it's Crash's Clay X alt account. And this is the point where it becomes very, very interesting, because like this post, they only get 2K views, but I actually was talking to Dinosaur like a lot of times in DMs, and I believe we were even speaking about doing some software development work with my main company, because Dinosaur is actually an engineer. And I really, really doubt that Crash is Dinosaur himself. Dinosaur is actually the member of the private NFT community of Crash. He's also the member of Neo Tokyo. That's essentially the way how I met him in the first place. Crash follows the account, going through the timeline. They both show the same exact place in order. Crash might be following because of the fact that this is the guy who actually is a member of his community for a long time, and the guy might have been sharing the same place because he's the member of the community of Crash, which kind of signalizes that he's the fan of Crash. Still not convinced it's Crash out. More proof next up. Here, the guy just showing different screenshots that the guy was shilling the same tokens as Crash was shilling. Crash public wallet, David, Crash alt wallet. Why are they having the same exact NFT activity on identical timestamps on base? Last 2 screens. This is something very, very interesting as well. Maybe they are closer than we all think. Maybe they're just talking like way more frequent. No one knows, right? One more interesting fact is that the Dinosaur is actually a core member of Farmbase Pro. But you know who else? Crypto Dan. Yes, that same guy who made a YouTube video with Crash where they supposedly never met each other for the first time ever. So I actually know Dan as well, which is quite funny. So I know all 3 of these guys. Crash, Dan, and Dinosaur as well. So you're telling me that Dinosaur, who is Crash, works with Crypto Dan on Farmbase and they just met? I really, really doubt that Crash in his free time spends on development of automation of airdrops for Dan. I really, really doubt that. Closing words. I have nothing against Insider or Insider trading specifically. This space is a real jungle and it's very hard to navigate. The problem is when you become a LARPer in front of your community. So this is one of the things I actually wanted to discuss, is because I think it might actually influence the longevity of bread and the fact of whether or not it will actually be able to recover and the fact that whether or not we should actually be buying bread at this stage, right? Because even in Satoshi VM case, I think after the FUD, it came down to like $2, right? And certain people, they definitely right curve the FUD, because you should always see FUD as an opportunity and think what actually people are getting from the FUD. If certain community with the token of base, I'm talking about MFR, with the shorts options opened on exchanges for bread as well, attack deliberately bread, and yeah, they might actually be benefiting very, very nicely from it. They might have shorted bread, and at the same time, they might essentially funnel people into their MFR token on base, which is quite interesting. And the problem that I see with bread is that even when new retail will be coming into the market, some people might still be saying that it is scam, fed the whole thing and things like that. So they might actually be getting through the FUD and kind of letting people know that it's an insider job and things like that. And this is one of the main risks I see on bread essentially not being able to make it out, along with the option of exchanges to delist bread. One more time, if exchanges actually will delist bread, yeah, I don't think it's going to recover, actually. I don't think so. That's like the main thing. But at the same time, we do have this thing on the market that a lot of people are talking negatively, fighting the project currently, and it definitely won't help the whole project to come back as well. I would say these are the two main issues. Some other thing that I wanted to go through. Wow, Insiders Plus Dev control 96% of the supply and they're actively selling. Here is one such example. Coins are sent to a centralized exchange to cover the tracks. Then from centralized exchange, they are distributed to various wallets. Vaults are created. I've counted 544 such vaults. And these vaults grant access to the contract, which consistently sells in small batches. This address is selling bread using these vault contracts. This particular one has already sold for 4.5 million. There are so many such cases. And we do also have James Wynn, who is a G. This guy just seems to be making money. Like, first he actually funded bread. He told everyone that he actually sold his bread. And then he started to shield bread on Ethereum, which is like an OG one that he probably bought like a lot of before he started to FUD bread. I think like this guy, he's just having fun. He's just having fun, making thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. It's just so fun in the first place. One of the positive points that you actually might say about bread on Ethereum, the old one, right, is the fact that they're saying that it's been on the market for many, many months already. So we can see that it actually live from the August of 2023. And if you know my Memecoin investment strategy, I like to invest things with like that chart that were dead for many, many time. And team still decided to essentially develop and pump these things. So we see that it actually pumped on 6th of April, which is very, very interesting. And right now it's pumping, I think it's like 400% in one day. And yeah, yesterday, 24th of April, 3 days ago, it was not that. So this is the main risk that I'm actually seeing. Breaking news, multiple success in talks to delist bread on base from the exchanges after insider manipulation has been uncovered. Crash has had 81% of the supply underneath investors' noses this entire time. Is this the end for bread on base? And we do have to understand that James is definitely an interested person because he claims that he sold his bread back and he pushes people to buy bread on ETH that he probably bought a bunch of as well. If this turns out to be the case, would the OG bread on ETH come back to life to take throne as #1 bread? That's just crazy. Like, things that this guy is doing, he's having fun. Like, it's all just a vacation for this guy in the first place. As bread on base is tanking, the OG and original bread is warming up on Ethereum. The OG bread on Ethereum. And this guy is known because he started to pump Elon and then he sold all of his Elon a couple of days like after. And at the same time, like before he sold just an hour ago, he was saying that like I'm holding till 1 billion and things like that. So this guy is just having fun. It's so funny in the first place. But this thing that he shared, I'm not sure this is true, right? Because this is the only thing that I'm seeing and there are reasons not to trust this guy in the first place. But as mentioned, I do believe that centralized exchanges actually have the reasoning to delist bread because they work in the way that not a lot of market actually thinks they work. It's not only about commissions, especially about tier 3 exchanges, tier 4 exchanges that Brett mostly was listed on. And on this channel, I am teaching you on how crypto works in the first place. So let me actually describe and tell you one more time how these things are working. When the new user is essentially onboarded on the exchange, what exchanges might be doing? I'm not saying that they are doing it, and it's this type of behavior is probably closer to the things that don't require like KYC from you, right? Like tier 3, tier 4 stuff. They actually analyze if a guy who just joined, if he's a profitable trader or if he's actually losing money. And like 90% of people on the exchanges, they are losing money over time. And if they're seeing that over time the guy is actually losing money, what they might start to do, because we have to understand when people are opening longs or shorts, this liquidity is not provided by the exchanges in the first place. So this money are not lended by exchanges. This money are usually lended by liquidity providers. So people who basically just provide this liquidity for the exchange, and they're getting certain yield because of the fact that they're essentially lending this money from the exchange, right? It's a proper standard business model. But what exchanges might be doing with the traders that actually are not that successful? If they see over time that the trader is not successful, they stop sending their orders to the liquidity provider. They start to take his orders themselves. And if he actually wins, if he's making money, they're paying him out. But if he's losing money, if he's getting liquidated, they're actually taking his money as liquidations. This is something that tier 3 and tier 4 exchanges are definitely doing on the marketplace. And the thing with centralized exchanges and the thing with Brett currently is that I do believe that FAT initially was actually concentrated, it was organized, and these guys may have shorted shit out of Brett. And tier 4 and tier 3 exchanges that actually listed Brett, they probably are losing money because of it. They're losing so much money. And that's why they actually might want to be delisting Brett at this stage. It's very interesting, but as mentioned, if Brett will actually get delisted, that's probably the end. But we will see. To share some other points, we have Poe, who was an advocate for Brett. I'm not sure if he's holding currently or not. Here is the pepe chart zoom out from first local top at 1.6 billion, where the FAT first started, to where it is today, sitting above 3 billion. In a few weeks, months from now, this is how the Brett chart will look in a few weeks, months, when the market goes green again and people are focused on making money and not bored fighting for engagement. That's actually something that I think is definitely happening, because I think a lot of us are bored and we're just seeing correction on the market. And it's quite normal for the projects to go down during the corrections, but definitely Brett corrections is increased along with the FAT that is happening. Pepe went through way worse FAT than Brett is having right now. So if you are new here, if you've bought Brett and are in fear, don't worry. Welcome to crypto. People love to fear monger. The only people that get hurt on these FAT frenzies are the people that market bought the local tops. Brett will be fine, bros. Have a great weekend. Big FAT on Pepe here. And Brett is here, bear market toxic timeline zone, where Brett will be when meme coins start pumping again. Well, I told you several times that it's all about survival. I will actually show some of my yesterday tweets that I think are very relevant to the current situation as well. We do understand that after this big FAT, Pepe was consolidating for pretty much 8-10 months. So FAT, I believe, happened somewhere around April, May, and Pepe started to pump again around February. So it was many months from there till people, like some people may forgot about the FAT and other things were essentially happening on the marketplace as well. The main thing for Pepe is I don't believe it actually got delisted from the exchanges. And I would say this is the main risk point for Brett at this stage. I definitely agree with the fact that once the market turned green, it will definitely be better and easier, especially for the projects that showed strength during this time of FAT, during this time of correction as well. But projects that received certain FAT, like this FAT will continue, and there will be a bunch of people who would be mid-curving and spreading the FAT, saying that like it's a scam, don't buy it, and things like that. And it will definitely influence certain retail players that would be standing away from this type of FAT. And essentially, we see a lot of messages from a lot of people currently in the industry that it's all childish plays. it's too stressful, I'm tired of all this FUD, I'm selling all my crypto and I'm actually leaving. Me, personally, I'm very, very calm at this stage, despite the fact this bread FUD actually hurts my Bobo backs. And one of the funny comments is that tell me you were whitelisted for bread without telling me you were whitelisted for bread. That actually might be the case with Paul. And we're kind of coming to the response to the main question, the fact that whether or not you should be buying into bread, or are you thinking that bread is actually going to zero? I do think that if exchanges will delist bread, it will definitely be going to zero. With this FUD happening, I don't believe bread recovering anytime soon. Obviously, if the market won't just jump like straight high like next week due to the Hong Kong ETFs and things like that. The issue that I see, like the worst case scenario for bread, is capitulation due to time, because of the fact that it will just be going down. People just would be selling over time. More and more people would actually be losing their confidence in this thing, even if they held through the FUD, maybe because of the fact they will actually get in way sooner and they're still in profits, right? And the main reason for this action would be the fact that people are continuing spreading the FUD. So people are continuing telling all the new players on the market about the FUD that happened, and they're telling not to actually buy into this whole thing. I actually see this as a likely scenario. I definitely do think that something like that was happening for pepe, and that may be the reason of why pepe was not like surging up very well through the last half of 2023. But at the same time, we definitely have to view FUD as an opportunity. From my point of view, I don't think that these type of FUDs, they would have like immediate reversals, right? I do think that we might be entering a stage where bread would be consolidating, where it might be going like slowly down, right? And I do think that if you would actually be looking to acquire bread, you should definitely have some time, especially if you are going into the larger correction on the marketplace. I do think that it should be correcting for quite some time if it won't be dying out, and the condition, the thesis for dying out is exchanges delisting bread, right? And since I do think that we should have some time with bread on base, I do think that you will actually be able to buy bread on base if you would actually would want to do that. So I won't say that kind of jumping right in currently into the boat and buying the FUD is something that you should be doing, because I don't think that this type of FUD would just go and lift away in one day, because this is the type of FUD that is provable on chain, and essentially people who are getting FUDed, they cannot protect themselves either way. So they cannot say this is not something that is true. They have to admit this fact. They have to say that yeah, it was clear from day one and things like that. Unfortunately, I do have a feeling that this story might not be ending well for bread, and it probably has a higher chance of dying out at this stage, because there is not a lot of people on the market to deceive at this stage. Like people who are in the market currently, through the current correction, through the FUD, through the whole stress, these are usually people who are in crypto, who know things, that understand things, and certain people definitely see FUD as opportunity, and we always should actually see any type of FUD as an opportunity in the first place. But I think it would actually be harder to go through something like this. So to go through FUD, you would eventually need new liquidity. I think that's what was happening with pepe, because the reason I think pepe pumped and surged, because it had new liquidity, because Ethereum went up and pepe essentially went up after some time. Ethereum actually went up because people received new liquidity and they decided to put this liquidity into pepe. With bread, the same thing have to be happening. If we will have a market reversal like next week, it will probably do well. But at the same time, we do have to understand, do you want to put your money into a meme that was FUDed? And probably it would be harder for this meme to essentially go up in the next market reversal, in us surging up. Or do you actually want to put money into something that was behaving nicely to the recent market price action and has a higher chance to essentially going up? We all are investors. Most of us are purely for money here in this space. Therefore, from this point of view, I would say that more people would essentially be putting things into something less stressful. Because I do actually see that most people are selling this thing not because like it's like dumping, they don't believe. Most people are just selling it because of stress. They don't want to handle the stress, which definitely helps only like the best and strongest and toughest holders to sustain in the whole thing, and which definitely might be bullish for the type of holder base that essentially is left in the project. But overall, I shared my opinion. I do think that this FUD won't probably beat the FUD of like 1 day, 1 week, 3 weeks, 2 months even. And if this FUD is happening, it will probably continue happening, and you'll probably have some time to buy your bread through this FUD. And risk reward from my end is not that great, because the project was at 800 million. Right now it's at 200 million. So it's only 4x down. So if I would be buying it currently, I will only be doing like a 4x, and all the insiders, they will basically have millions, and they will have way less conviction in holding these things. So they will probably be dumping. So I think the situation that we might be seeing on bread is the exact situation that we actually saw on Pepe for many, many months. Pepe was trying to break out and constantly got sold by people who probably got too much stress, by people who just wanted to get away from this thing, right? It was many, many multiple attempts for Pepe to break out. I would say since August 2023 till the eventual time it was actually able to break out, till February, right? Many, many attempts for Pepe to break out, and people were selling Pepe because of the fact they were hurt, they felt pain, they felt stress, they wanted to get rid of it as much as they can. And we do have to understand that current holders and insiders of bread, they're also people in the first place, and they will also be looking to get rid of bad emotions in the first place. If bread will be returning, I don't think it's going to be quick. So if you would actually want to take advantage of FUD, I think you would actually be able to do that. And the thesis that will essentially just decline this whole picture and send bread to zero is exchanges delisting bread. Because if they would be doing that, there is a high chance that they will not be listing it back again. I actually think I provided you with a pretty nice answer on the current situation. I think this is the main thing that you should be thinking about currently, because all this FUD, let me actually show you something. So just to sum up, I'm not buying bread currently. Risk reward from my point of view is not that great. I do think that it will need to go through multiple walls of FUD. I do think that current holders and insiders, they will be looking to sell the bread on upcoming pumps as well. I might be looking into buying it, but later. Market cap that I would ideally want to buy bread is 50 million, 70 million, if we would actually go there. Even at 100 million, well, at 100 million it might be nice, but we definitely have this issue that insiders, they will be looking to sell because they were exposed, they were just dumped on, they're hurt currently, and they will be looking to hurt other people as well. My tweet from yesterday: grown-ass men are fighting over meme coins. Pathetic. In reality, the fight is going on for the ability to dump tens of millions of dollars on retail. But we are all gonna win, and we'll make a bunch of money if we will survive. Focus on survival. Once retail comes, we will be friends with each other, treating ourselves as best friends, war veterans. All filthy fucking rich. That's the main thing I actually want to focus. And I think that's the main lesson you actually would want to take out of this thing, because you may understand this insider plays. You may understand good deceivers, people who are actually able to navigate retail after them and let them buy into something. But at the same time, I think you still have to be cautious and treat these plays as short-term PvP type of scenarios and actually follow them and look and understand what is happening with them. Just because of the fact that projects that will be able to survive till retail comes, they will be doing very well. They will be receiving a bunch of liquidity. They will be doing very, very fucking well. And you might shift your attention and you might lose your liquidity on this type of plays that will get flooded. And you knew initially, you knew that maybe something is not right. Maybe this thing pumped too much. If this thing pumped too much and did not have any corrections, probably means that there are a bunch of insiders that are just holding the supply. It's being marketed too aggressively. And I don't like it, and I don't think it's actually organic. It does not have a proper community in the first place. Some people are used to chart this thing. And this is one important thing I actually want to tell you. And this connects with the fact that I told you at the start, I will show you how fucking stupid the current market is and how smart certain people are. If you control 80% or more of a shitcoin and you're working with the market makers, you can draw any type of fucking chart you actually want to draw. You can draw any fucking type of technical analysis template you actually want to do. Charting shitcoins when you are controlling 80% of the supply is fucking pointless. The only reason to do that is to deceive people into buying your shitcoin, into actually pumping your bags. Something like that was used on Brett and on Andy on Ethereum as well. And I don't think that you actually need to understand these things. Go watch my interview right here, I think, with the CEO of Godbit, the market makers behind Bonk. Technical analysis as an instrument is questionable in the first place. And what market makers are actually telling on a bunch of interviews, there are a lot of interviews with market makers on the market currently. Unfortunately, most of them are in Russian, but you can definitely watch the transcriptions and things like that. The things that they're saying is that they know all the patterns that retail traders are actually trading according to. When they control enough of the supply, and it's not like large amount of the supply, it can be like 5, 10, 15%, they can already draw anything they fucking want on the chart. And they specifically draw things around the patterns that you retail traders actually know to take your money. That is something that is happening already. And the reason I'm saying that the market is fucking stupid at this stage is because so many people were actually deceived into buying Brent and into some other tokens following charts of these tokens provided by people that control 80% of the supply of these shitcoins. It's very fucking stupid in the first place. And here's a thing that I actually wanted to share as well. We have low IQ guy, we have middle IQ guy, and we have high IQ guy as well. Wow, shitcoin charting works. Let me buy. That's low IQ guy. Middle IQ guy. Shitcoin charting is a scam. When you control 80% of the supply, market makers can actually chart anything I won't be buying. And high IQ guys, I'm following best deceivers and making money. If you understand that someone is good in deceiving, if you understand that someone is drawing very, very nice charts for the shitcoins that he actually controls and works with the market makers to draw any fucking chart that he actually wants, you might want to follow this type of deceiver. If you still understand that this video, and especially this part of the video, since no one is because no one actually watching YouTube videos till the end, right? If you understand that people would be easy to deceive, especially retail, once more of them will come in, they will be looking at these charts. And like, charts is a very, very interesting thing because they are specifically focused on deceiving mid-curve type of people who think they're smart, people who think that charting on shitcoins with market makers where people are controlling 80% of the supply actually works, right? So it's an interesting part. It's a very, very interesting thing because these mid-curve guys, they actually have certain liquidity to throw into tokens as well. And high IQ guys, they're just following this place. They do understand that deceivers were able to deceive with bread. Therefore, on the next project, they will probably have a high chance to deceive as well. And they will just be following it, knowing that they will probably be doing a great job on deceiving a bunch of people to buy into the shit crap meme token with zero narrative in the first place. It's actually a very, very nice piece of alpha on the market. Like, you can be making so much money with these things. We also have to understand that if mindshare is actually going to be focused on a certain token, if certain action will cause emotions in people, it also might be a very, very interesting and nice buy in the first place. Therefore, I would say that high IQ people, understanding actually what happened on bread, understanding that no one actually wanted to buy bread after like 400 million market cap. No one wanted it until charts were introduced, until charts pumped it further to 850 million. High IQ people would actually see that, would understand that it works, would see that this type of deceiving actually work, and buy into, like right away, the next project that will be launched by these deceivers, understanding that they are very, very nice and deceiving, and they would actually be able to do the same thing on their next project as well, especially with the control of the mindshare that was happening in the market as well. I would say focus on survival. Sometimes people that are doxed in the industry, they actually have nothing else to do than pump their own project, then actually make it survive and make it work, just because of the fact that they have their backs against the walls, and at the same time they're putting their reputation on leverage. You know, if they screw up, they would just get liquidated. So it might be a very, very interesting thing and a very, very interesting scenario in this case as well. Our goal on this channel is to understand the markets better and actually figure out how to win in the markets as well. I was saying for months that there was something shady going on with Brad. I got to know some new interesting information that I probably won't be sharing publicly as well. But we will see. Execution definitely was nice. Sometimes you just have to succumb and follow the best deceivers who would be able to lead the most amount of retail to a slaughterhouse. Exactly like James Wynn, for example, is doing himself, right? And I'm actually quite bullish on the market because I was checking out some retail view on crypto. Everyone still thinks it's a scam. Everyone still thinks that it's very, very hard to make any money in crypto at this stage. And in several months, they will all be buying our stuff, our meme tokens, our shit. We just have to focus on the things that will survive, and as the part of an interesting PvP type of scenario, follow the best deceivers. If obviously these deceivers would be able to survive with their projects till the end as well. Understanding at the same time that if you're following the deceiver, best case is if you actually were able to enter somewhere around the same price, the same time that deceiver was essentially getting into the project as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Bye bye.